All right, it is Tuesday night, and I am back since I'm not at a concert, so that means another episode of Goal Horns and Fight Songs. I'm Mike, that's Wes, whatever side of the screen he's on for you, I don't know. Uh, and kind of really getting in the off season now.
We are. That is why we have the guest joining us that we do. On Twitter, he is at CC Hockey News. Broadmoor Beauties, I believe, is a throwback to the old student section name, potentially when they were still at the Broadmoor World Arena. But our guest here is Nick, who represents the Colorado College Tigers. So, welcome to the show, Nick.
What's up? How's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. So how long have you been following the team there in Colorado Springs?
Yeah, so let's see, I was admitted to CC back in the day, 2004, whatever. And I was admitted as a winter start. So I went out actually in the fall of 2005 to kind of get the lay of the land. And I went to a game and I got to Themaine play CC at the Broadmoor World Arena, the newer World Arena, which is CC is now abandoned, but and Maine was my home state team, so that was kind of cool to. That was my first introduction to the team, so it's been almost 20 years. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I'm right in the same wheelhouse. I got to Western in 2007 and been following the team since. So pretty close to
Wow.
right
Okay,
around
there
the
you
same
go.
time zone or time period there.
And I basically read as a younger kid, it was just kind of Minnesota teams, especially I think 2002, 2003. I was cheering for the Gophers in the national championship game, but I grew up an hour north of Duluth. So basically, for 32 years, it's been Bulldog hockey. It's just
Bulldog
become
hockey.
more and more as the years have gone on, especially going to college in Duluth as well.
For sure. Yeah.
So how it's been 3 years since you guys have moved to Ed Robeson Arena, and it seems like the move has been positive, both the environment and for the team. Like you guys have been building since you got there. How's that feeling amongst the fans there?
Yeah, it was when I was there, there were some strong teams. I think it was my junior year. It might have been like fall of '07 or fall of '08 that CC entered the season ranked number one in the country. So some really good teams back in the day. And then kind of at the end of the Scott Owens era, obviously, and then into the Mike Havlin era, just kind of saw a little bit of a drop. And the Haviland led Tigers did build a little bit of momentum, and they kind of, I think it was like, might have been 2016, 17 or something like that. They got the gold pan back from DU, which it might have been 17, 18. I can't remember. But I got the gold pan back, I think won like 17 games, something like that. So it was like, okay, maybe something's happening here. And then right before COVID and everything, and all just kind of took a dive again. So it's been a long road back. I mean, I'm sure you guys are aware, palpable excitement. People are stoked. The new building is amazing. I don't know if have either of you been out to see it yet. I don't know if you have, but
No,
Uh,
I have not.
no, I went to a
yeah.
game at. I went to a weekend at Broadmoor, but I have not been back out to go to Ed
Okay.
Robeson yet.
Robeson it's very cool. It's like, Coach Mayak kind of described it as like there's no way to really convey how cool it is through pictures or videos. Like you got to walk in there. I was fortunate. I was out there, and he just happened to be around, and he gave me a little tour, and the place was empty, and it was just, I walked in there and I was like, wow, this is unreal. It's got a really like big grand feel, even though it's intimate, kind of roughly same capacity as Lawson, I think. And yeah, it's just, they nailed it. The fact that they got a an arena built on campus is huge. There was like some talk of it, like whispers of it back when I was a student, but it was sort of like, I don't know if it would ever happen. And then, when it finally came through, they were going to build a practice facility. It was the first thing. You guys, I don't know if you know, but it was supposed to be like on campus practice facility, nice locker room, nice training facilities, but then they would still play at World Arena. and then some sort of momentum got built, conversations behind the scenes. Hey, what could we do with a little more money? What could we do with a little more? And then it kind of snowballed into, let's build our own thing. So big process getting there. But I think having the on-campus arena is huge. Everybody's stoked about it. Everybody talks about the recruiting advantage. First time ever in the history of the team that they've been able to play games on campus. You can pitch that to recruits, and you got just amazing world-class facilities right there. Beautiful location. They got a lot going for them. So I think, very long-winded way of saying in terms of what the fans are feeling. I think it's like the hype is never. It's been a long time since the hype has been this high, because it was a tough road there for a while of single digit win seasons.
Yeah.
And I think, if I remember correctly, as far as conference play goes, I believe you opened it up with UMD, and I was driving up to go hunting, and I was listening to Bruce Siskey on the radio, our radio play-by-play guy, and he was just raving about the new arena, and then of course you having your new coach and he's like, this is going to be awesome, because I also remember really not liking CC back in the WCHA, and then kind of right at the beginning of the NCHC, because you did have good teams, really good teams then. And I think having this excitement, I know I've told Wes this, I like having CC competitive. I like having to worry about them. Just not when we play them, but it's still, it's fun to have that excitement there, especially because in all other sports, you're the only Division III school in the conference.
That's right. Yeah, it's all D3. With the exception of women's soccer. So women's soccer, men's hockey, those are the two D1 sports. Balance each other out with Title IX there. And it's a unique school. It's again, some of this you may know, but roughly 2,000 undergrads, and then just a handful of graduate students in an education program. And so small school, like kind of like some of those schools back east, like a Union or a St. Lawrence. It's like a tiny little school, but it's but obviously hockey is the big thing. So it's fun to see them back competitive again, because like you said, those kind of the end of the WCH era, CC was, after Lucia had come in and kind of gotten the momentum going, because they were about to, this is a kind of a fun story, and maybe you guys know, but small little anecdote, but they were about to scrap the program in early 90s, I think it was, because the World Arena was being demolished, the old World Arena, and they didn't have a home. And then the school was like, well, our team, hasn't been doing great for decades, so why don't we just ditch it? And then I can't remember if it was Air Force that came in first or if the news of the new arena came, but Air Force said, hey, why don't you come play it at our barn for a few years? And then right around the same time, again, I'm not sure what was first, but then they announced that the new Broadmoor World Arena was going to be built. So that kind of, saved the program from, getting dumped, which is kind of cool. And then Lucia brought the momentum in. Owens took it over when Lucia went to Minnesota. And then, like you said, that kind of, the early 2000s, mid 2000s, those CC teams were pretty dominant. So it is cool to see him back relevant, competitive, and building towards, I think, something big. So.
Yeah, Western's in the works right now to actually move their arena off campus. Not very far. I think like 2 miles is what it's going to be, but there's a lot of negative ideas or thoughts around that. Like, I think the on-campus thing is so big. It's so much more accessible to students. Coming from Western, our student section is everything to like the hockey program. It's something that they pride themselves on. It's something that if you hear any player talk about, like, that's the first thing they mention about playing at Lawson. That's the thing they mention when they do like their pro interviews, and they're asked like, oh, what's the best thing about playing at Western? It's the student section. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of goes forward with that, if it's something that the students are like, it's too far, we don't want to be downtown on a Friday, Saturday night. Um, but we've seen kind of the opposite. Like I said, when I went out there, Colorado College was kind of a little bit lower. They weren't winning the games they're winning now. Uh, it was off campus. I didn't even know where the student section was. I couldn't have told you if there was a student in the building the weekend that we were out there, and it was the final weekend of games that year. It could have been spring break. It could have been anything. I couldn't tell you that there was a single student in that building. But watching it on NCHC TV now, like, it is packed out. There's a legit student section. They're making noise. It seems like an environment that would draw a hockey fan into it, and really seems to have shown up, and the players seem to enjoy the vibes out there. And there's been, you have a great goaltender in Umberco, some great defensive play that you guys have had over the last few years. The teams really seems to be going in a great position, and Mayot's done a great job in the quick turnaround that he's been out there. So I really hope that success continues for you guys, just because it makes the conference better to have everybody playing at a high level.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting, because obviously, like, Miami, CC kind of at the bottom there, trying to figure it out. And again, I think, it was really, it was Mike Haviland that kind of got Ed Robeson's ear a little bit, and was, and I don't know all the behind the scenes stuff. I just know that Mike was pushing for, something on campus. He was like, hey, we gotta have a presence on campus. It started with that practice facility. And then it built and built and built. And then, kind of the funding came through to make it happen, to make it into a game arena. And then of course, Mayotte coming in, I think CC was like, all right, we're ready for a little reset, new arena, new coach. Yeah. And it's been a great start. It's been fun to follow along, especially having suffered through, like, a decade plus of kind of irrelevancy. So yeah. And like you said, I was there, like 06 through 2010. And there were some good student sections, but, kids had to bust down. And this is getting a little bit back to what you mentioned about Western and everything, but, we had to bus to World Arena. It was a ways. It was like a 15-minute drive. And you got 2,000 students, whatever portion of them you can get their attention. They know there's a game happening. You got to get them on the bus. You got to get them there. And then they got to wait for the bus to come back to campus. So it was like, it's in a way, Western's doing the opposite thing. Although, like you said, it's not quite as far, but it is interesting. It's something to consider. I mean, you got your, this big, beautiful barn being built downtown in Kalamazoo, and then but you're kind of losing that on campus. All the kids can kind of come over and, pack it in, and then it doesn't, you have a beer, a couple beers, whatever, you can stumble out and then head to the party, whatever, it's like, it's all right there. So it's a little bit of a different dynamic having it off campus. And I think for CC, especially a school that's that size, you want to get kids in the building. I mean, my freshman dorm was right across the street. So, and that's where all the, like, freshman hockey guys are. So it's, it's right there. You can't miss it, which is cool. Cause like you said, at the end, that student section at World Arena was like, yeah, it was like, I don't even know, you couldn't even point to it. So, but
it definitely is, because UMD, our arena is off campus, and it's, I don't know technically how many miles it is. I may have made the walk once or twice from Canal Park back up to the general area. But having it off campus almost makes it feel more of like a family atmosphere, and more than an actual college game. And then sometime within the last 4 years, they the one bar that was across from the arena, that shut down and just became an event center. So Saturdays you would get more kids down there, because they were like, well, we're just gonna go walk across the bridge and go to the bar afterwards. It was
go to the bar, yeah.
Saturdays at grandma's, but they shut that down, and the student section just hasn't been the same. And I've been back to games over the years, and I remember probably 2012 going to a game, and the student section was just packed. It was so much fun. I went to the other school. You have 4 schools around the area with Wisconsin Superior, Lake Superior, St. Scholastica, and UMD. You could get in there. Well, then the students ruined it, and now I watch the games on TV. I'm jealous of Colorado College. I'm jealous of Western Michigan. I'm jealous of North Dakota because for the state of hockey, it's not that much. And even you look at St. Cloud State, their student section is one little section in the corner.
Mhm.
Like it just doesn't have the atmosphere, and theirs is on campus. So there is that dynamic where I think is at least for UMD, it's more of a family atmosphere being off campus than on campus with all the students coming in and being able to stumble back to their dorms or their apartments or wherever they may be.
To that point, I think I've heard a couple of folks mention it. You can feel it when you're there, but it really, with Robeson, it really feels like the public is being invited to campus. Like I think the coaches have said, like they've had folks come up to them and be like, "I've never been to campus before. It's beautiful. It's what. Oh, look at that building over there. Like look at your view of Pikes Peak." It's like there are folks that have been fans for 20, 30 years and they never went to the school. So it is a bit of a change in that dynamic of like probably similar to Duluth. The World Arena felt like it had a little bit of more of that like minor pro element of like they're like the giveaways, and there are a lot of families there, and it really felt like Colorado Springs, the town's team. And now it feels like it's been given back to the school a little bit, which some folks were sensitive about, because they're like, well, there's no more $7 Saturdays or whatever. It's like if you're going to go to a game, if it's a DU game, forget about paying under 60, 70, $80, whatever, if maybe you can get in the door for less, but it's so it's a little bit more of a kind of a premium experience now, and it's on campus, and you got the suites, the corporate suites the CC can sell to get that extra revenue. So it's like it's a little bit of a different dynamic, but then you got the students, and then you got the professors, and it's like the players are like kids I see in class every day. They can just walk over, and the team is present on campus, and before they were practicing, training, playing across town. So it's a totally different dynamic that they've never had before, which is kind of cool. So
Yeah, I think that's kind of the cool thing about college sports is like these are guys. It kind of feels like high school in that regard. Like these are guys you have classes with. You might see around campus every once in a while. You might see at weekend events, parties, like things like that. Like you're more tied into the team when they're a part of the community of the campus, or as opposed to being separated that like that. You mentioned it being a small school and you guys only having the one grad program. This year being the last year of the COVID year, that seems to have really hit your team hard. The last couple of years, you guys really haven't had much of a presence in the portal. This year, more so. With the older guys, you've got 5 senior. Wait, is it 5 or 6? It might even be more than that. Let me count them real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 seniors who have jumped in just because they don't have that grad opportunity there. A couple sophomores and a couple freshmen who have entered the portal, and you guys have brought 3 players in from the portal. So I mean, like I said, a little more activity than we're kind of used to seeing from Colorado College. How's that feeling with so much transition in a team that has gotten so good the last couple of years, and it's been kind of that senior leadership that has helped them out, and that senior defense, that older guys, the experienced guys picking the team up?
sure, yeah. I mean, like you mentioned the defense, you got like Jack Millar, Chase Foley, Nicky Andrews, and then Connor Mayer was in as a 5th year this past season. So that decor, a lot of leadership there, and then up front, Logan Will, captain back-to-back years, and he's heading out to Providence. So a little bit of a changing of the guard for sure. I think the CC coaching staff probably would have liked to keep a couple of those guys for one more year. I think they all understand, like, 4 years and maybe you're ready for something new. Like you said, small school, it's just the education program for graduates. So that does limit options a little bit for keeping guys around, bringing guys in. I know Coach Matz mentioned offhand that the plan was never, like, they whatever plan they have. I don't know the behind the scenes of what the 5-year, 7-year. Yeah, right. Whatever, we can speculate, but he mentioned that the 5th year was never really much of a consideration for them. They built it in. They were like, this is CC. It's a little bit of a different thing. We're not Minnesota. We're not Wisconsin. We're not going to be bringing in those 5th year guys, those grad students. So, they've had a couple, but it hasn't been like a focal point. But then, yeah, like you said, Wes, dipping into the portal a little bit more, because that was, they made some headlines when they said, we're going to build this on culture. We're bringing guys in as freshmen. We promise you a spot when we're on the recruiting trail, and we want you to know that when you get to campus, that spot's going to be there for you. And we're not just going to bring in whoever from, from the Big Ten or from Hockey East or something like that. So that was sort of that building from within development model. And I think, again, just speculating, I think after this past season, they missed the tournament by 0.0004, whatever. They're like right on the edge, and one win and it could have tipped them in. I think now that they're kind of in that position of, all right, we got all our guys, or a lot of our guys, here to campus. We've got that last class, last COVID class that's kind of moving on. I'm assuming the conversation is, what's it going to take to, first of all, just get us in the tournament, and then now maybe we're in the position to just push that next step further. And if we're going to be a tournament team, who do we want to bring in that can, nudge us there? I know that, if they could have kept Jack Millar for another season, I don't know if Brady Cleveland comes to campus. He's coming in from Wisconsin. That feels like a little bit of he's another big guy. He's 6'6", 6'5", and physical. And then same deal with Chase McLean out of Penn State. If Logan Will sticks around for another year, I don't know if Chase McLean comes in. So part of it could be like they're trying to compensate for that loss of experience, leadership, and they're saying, we got it. Eventually we're going to have to get into this portal thing, and now's the time. So, but again, that's just speculation. But it's a bit of a shift in a dynamic. It's like, okay, now guys are going to come in who are a little older, and they might be coming in from other programs, and that changes the dynamic in the locker room, I guess, a little bit, because it does shift away from that, like, we're developing from freshman year all the way through. But
we've definitely seen some teams have some success in incorporating at least guys on a limited basis. North Dakota's had some successful years doing it. Western's had some success this year, especially with the way Sam Colangelo came in and played for Western, having spent 3 years at Northeastern. Seemed to fit in extremely well, had career numbers here. You guys seem to be, at least on paper, getting the right type of players. All 3 guys who have committed to coming in next year are draft picks. Ty Gallagher, a draft pick of Boston in the 7th round. Chase McLean, who you mentioned, a 2020 7th round pick of Nashville. Brady Cleveland, a 2023 2nd round pick of Detroit. So, you're getting some guys who have that eyes on them already at the pro level, who could potentially bring eyes to, some of these younger players. We hear about it in all sports that, like, it might be so-and-so's pro day, but player B ended up with a contract because he was helping player A on their pro day, just because the eyes are there. You never know who's going to get seen in those circumstances. So the trickle down effect from having guys like that come into your program is immeasurable, I think. And
that
to not.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you don't want to overdo it in the portal, but I think they're doing it the right way, and Mayotte has seemed to make the right call more often than not, for sure.
Yeah,
And I think
I forgot to mention. I was just gonna say I forgot to mention that. Yeah, they're all draft picks, like you said. Yeah, bringing a bit of a spotlight over and yeah, just drawing a little more attention to what's going on at Robeson. Yeah,
and I think there's a difference too, like you were saying, Nick, how Mayotte and his whole staff and CC is doing it. It's different than North Dakota because you guys are losing guys because there are no grad programs. It's the older guys for the most part, and you're building from within. Last year, North Dakota, they lost their whole defensive core. They brought in
yeah,
a whole new defensive core. I mean, they're treating it more like free agency and just kind of like a Kentucky in basketball or an Alabama in football. Basketball is more because the one and dones. Um, so I like the way that DC's doing it. Dip into the transfer portal the way that you need to maybe replace some pieces and okay, this kid maybe needs one more year in juniors. He was going to come this year, but not quite ready and he still has a year there. We'll just swap these pieces, do that. You guys typically are a little heavier in the losses than the imports, but like I said, it's just the aging out. Uh, and it's a good dynamic to have because I think it gives more credibility to what's being built there. Like exactly like you said, the kids they're coming in, they're promised a spot. Okay, I'm gonna have a spot. Now, do I need to work for that spot? Yes, but I don't have to worry about I'm gonna come in as a freshman and all of a sudden they're just grabbing this kid and this kid and this kid, and all of a sudden you're what did Biz say that one time? A press box hat trick where you eat three hot dogs in the game. Like you're not having to worry about that. So I think that's kind of fun to see too with Colorado College and how the program's being built over these last 3 years.
Yeah, and
for sure. And it's oh,
no,
go ahead, Wes.
I was just gonna say the thing about Colorado College this year, especially, is like a lot of these players you would have lost anyway if it were still under the old system. So we're not necessarily like the opportunity could have been there, but again, this is something that Colorado College would have had to deal with, and a lot of programs would have had to deal with certain circumstances like this if COVID hadn't hit. Like these guys still would have been at the age where they're like, okay, is there a grad program open to me? Do I have to apply for some kind of exemption for that 5th year? So you're not in a position where it's unexpected loss, kind of like last year it was for North Dakota with just the amount of turnover that Mike brought up, like their entire decor. These were always kind of expected losses, and it just so happens that there's an availability for them to play another year that I think makes it more notable this year for the Tigers.
And I also
Definitely.
think it says something about the program too. Um, Wes and I have talked about this a bunch. North Dakota, they're just such a perfect example. They're losing a lot of young kids, freshmen and sophomores that are going other places. And it makes me wonder what's going on behind the scenes there that these kids are not wanting to stick around. They're not getting playing time. What's the coaching staff like? Is it not what they were promised? All these different things. And at CC, you're not really losing a lot of these young players. It's just all the guys that are aging out and don't have any other option. They want to keep playing. So it's like they're not like peace. They're like, we just want to play one more year. We love it here, but we don't have that option.
For sure. Yeah. And I was gonna say CC, because it's small and because it's a D3 school, and then you've got I don't know if you guys know the block plan at Colorado College is their academic schedule. So it's one class at a time.
Yeah.
So for 3.5 weeks, you take one class, that's it. And then you have a 4-day break, and then you move on to the next class. And so and I think Mayotte's kind of pitched it as like a bit of an advantage because he's like, my guys can focus on one thing for a month. That's it. Move on to the next class. You don't have to have your hands in 4 or 5, different classes. So you're already kind of it's already a unique recruit that you're getting anyway. If someone wants to go to a big school, they're going to go to a big school. So, when you bring somebody out there and you walk them around campus, it's a small school, it's in a beautiful part of the country, but it's a unique school. It's a little liberal arts college. So I think Mayotte understands that it's already a unique experience, I'm not sure all the, what they're all doing with NLI or NIL rather, and all that stuff. But, it's going to be interesting to see how they stack up against the North Dakotas and the Wisconsins and the BCs in terms of recruiting, in terms of like moving guys through the program, because it is such a unique school, unique experience. And I know when Owens was around, I think he was paying a lot of attention to like, I want kids that are going to stick here 4 years, as you get more of those draft picks in the lineup, maybe there's more movement. I'm not sure. It's a little bit uncharted territory, especially with the new arena and everything. And so it'll be interesting to see how that evolves.
I should have gone to Colorado College and tried to play tennis there, because I went to a D3 school, and I wasn't that good at tennis, but I was able to go there, and it's about the same size as CC.
I don't think our tennis team was very good when you were in college, so you probably could have helped out. They're pretty legit now. That's another thing. The athletic director, Leslie Irvine, she's got some great momentum across all sports. Paying attention to the D1s, but also the D3s. So yeah. Anyways, maybe they would have won a championship if you were there back in the day, but
probably not, because we weren't that good either.
You mentioned the gold pan between you and Denver. I refuse to say DU if I can avoid it. They're the University of Denver. It is dumb that they go by DU. I will stand on that mountain and yell it.
It's kind of stupid, yeah. But you know what they say? You can't spell dumb without.
Fair enough.
Well, that's
There you go, Wes. Counterpoint.
It's a great point. I'm just not gonna say it. Is that based on just like, I don't really understand it. Is that based on one weekend of games? It's not based on the entire series of games, the 4-game set?
So it was established, I'll make sure I get this right. I know Owen, I think Scott Owens was part of it, or maybe it was even before that. It might have even been when Sarah Torre was still coaching DU.
I think I even tried looking it up to get like some more history on it, and I just don't understand, other than it's played between you guys. It's essentially the Colorado version of Michigan versus Michigan State.
Right.
And they mention it every year, and it's like, I don't know what you're talking about here.
Yeah, no, for sure. It is a little unclear. It's basically, for as long as I can remember, CC and DU have played 4 games a year, and I can't recall in the old WCHA if that was still the case. I think so.
Probably.
But 4-game series, probably, yeah. 4-game series every year. They schedule it that way. I know it's been that way in the NCHC. Before Arizona State was lumped in, it was like DU, CC, 4 games every year. So basically, it's a 4-game series. So if DU's got the pan, in order for CC to get it back next year, they would have to win that gold pan. They'd have to win the series outright. So basically, they could go. They would have to go. I don't know, any combination of like. I think the bare minimum would be a win, a loss to DU, and then 2 ties, and that would get you the gold pan because you got the 2 ties, maybe. Or no, it wouldn't. Sorry, you got to win 2 games. They got to win 2 games. That's it. And then DU would have to win 1, and then there would have to be a tie. So you have to win the series outright to get the pan back. And then it trades off that way. And if you're DU, you're just trying to tie the season series or do better. So
okay, yeah,
that's it.
Like, I think the way they kind of mention it, or the way they talk about it, and my understanding is it's always been like that first weekend series between the 2 teams. If Denver wins like Friday, well, they get the gold pan for another year because they won 1 game, and it seems to only be like that first series that they play that matters for it. And it's always like what Michigan and Michigan State have done, I don't know how long they've been. I think they've only been doing this maybe since the Big Ten started, but they have I think their normal 3 or 4 games that they play, and then they play one game in Detroit. I don't remember if it's a normal part of the normal series or not, but that one they have what they call the Battle in the D trophy, and it's one game for the trophy in Detroit, and it at least makes somewhat sense of what they're doing. I just don't remember how it ties into. Shut up, Michael. Not my school, not my monkey.
They
not my
need to
circus.
have a better name for that. Just saying.
I didn't say Battle of the D's. I said Battle in the D. You're a child. Anyway, they play one game for it every year, and it at least makes sense. Like I said, I have been trying to figure out what the gold pan is. If it's something like they could do and play one game at Ball Arena every year, and it's the gold pan game. Whoever wins it gets it for the year, as opposed to whatever weird nonsense they have going on now that is just confusing to apparently anybody outside of those 2 universities.
I would totally be into that. I hadn't thought of it. It's again, it has been, you got to win the series, the 4-game series, and if you win it, then or you tie it, then you hold on to the pan. And if you don't have it, you have to win the series outright. I think just to make it a bit more of a thing, that's a good idea. Ball Arena, 1 game a year, and then for the fans, it's like you want to see a CCDU game, and you're going to only go to 1 game for whatever reason. This is the one. I think that would be fun.
Didn't you play 1 game there this year at Ball Arena?
I think it was last year.
They played.
This year was just not 2 home and homes this year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
not
the
this,
year prior.
Not this past season. A year prior. It was Ball Arena, and I think I can't remember everything leading up to it, but I know DU just kind of secured it, and then all of a sudden it was like the week before, or maybe it was a couple weeks before. It was like, game's gonna be at Ball Arena. It was like this big, like kind of last minute, and there was no particular, celebration tied to it or anniversary. It was just like the UNCC playing at Ball Arena. The place was completely packed. I was lucky enough to get out there for it. It was cool. It was, I haven't been to, it's the only college game I've been to where the attendance is above like 7,000-8,000, because it's a big, it's an NHL arena. So it was very cool to see it packed. And I would love to see it be an annual thing. I know there's a lot of, there's probably a lot of like red tape to get through to make that happen, but it was fun. It was a good one. I think they're playing is it DU in Minnesota in a year or 2? They're going to play the Hall of Fame game there, I'm pretty sure.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. And so I think DU is like, okay, this could be a thing moving forward. Maybe we'll bring other teams in, but I would love to see it be a gold pan game every year, because the atmosphere was awesome. It was great.
And then they get Alan Roach, the in-arena play-by-play or in-arena PA guy for the Avs. It's kind of so it's weird hearing him when the Wild play the Avs, because he's also the Vikings PA guy.
Oh, is he really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's from Minnesota, and so you hear his big booming voice, and I'm like, that's not raw. No, don't be cheering for the Avs. No, don't do that. You're supposed to be Minnesota. So yeah,
That's funny.
He does that. So I was actually just going to ask you if you remember if he did that, because it is really cool. He has such a cool voice and a big, deep stadium voice that those epic moments he can bring, kind of like a Bruce Buffer or a Michael Buffer type of attitude to it.
I can't remember if he did. I mean, I know they did it well, and I don't know if, I assume DU was working in tandem with like the Avs, event staff or whatever. I mean, all the video, everything, all the build up to the game, it felt like a pro game. So it was probably him.
Yeah, probably was him.
I mean, it was, unless DU wanted to get their guy in there, but I don't really recall. But it was, I mean, it felt like you were at an NHL game with like the light show and everything. They did a really good job. So it was I mean, it was kind of surreal to see college hockey on that kind of stage and just a regular season game, no particular stakes. And, at the time, CC was still kind of, I think it was Matt, I guess it was Matt's second year. So they were still sort of trying to put the pieces together. But it was a good one. It was fun.
They still had McCown scoring all those power play goals.
Yeah, dude, he was. I mean, just that was the one, like, not the one bright spot, but definitely a bright spot throughout the season was, just tee it up for Hunter McCown, and he was just hammering these things, and then had a couple like highlight reel, steal it, deke in front, and yeah, it was fun to watch him take off, and that actually, he mentioned that he had kind of not. I mean, I guess with because it was Mike Haviland that brought him out to CC and gave him a chance. He was kind of a fourth line, or like extra skater, first guy cut on the the USN TDP, and so having that opportunity, I think, to be the guy never quite happened under Mike Haviland, and then I think under Coach Mayotte really blossomed into this like offensive threat. So it's kind of cool to see how the new staff has been developing some of these guys, and can maybe say the same thing for like a Noah Laba. I mean, even though he, was already kind of like he was going to be a promising player no matter what, but like it seems like their development is evolving really nicely. So, anyways, yeah, but he's a pro now, so doing his thing, and actually, Mike Haviland is he's coach. I think he's the assistant in the I forget the Columbus's AHL squad, but it's I don't know, something Monsters, whatever. I don't
Cleveland
know. Anyways,
Monsters.
Cleveland Monsters, yeah. So and actually Mayotte, I don't know, this is a bit of a tangent. Mayotte tried to recruit him to Michigan, couldn't do it. Mike Haviland brought him out to CC. He ends up playing for Mayotte at CC, and now he's back with Mike Haviland with the Monsters. So I don't know, interesting journey for him. But
yeah, no, when you guys lost McCown and then watching this year, Laba's definitely a guy who seemed to step up and fill that role pretty well, and just score some stupid goals. I think he undressed Rowe a couple times in some very important overtime games this year that were rather
dramatic
and irritating.
Yeah.
I'm beginning to really dislike your team. You have caused more heartbreak in our own building than any other team in the conference, and I dislike it greatly, sir.
For the Lawson faithful, I'm not sure exactly what it is. I don't know if they just like playing there, whatever. It's been interesting to see that. I mean, even before the new staff arrived, it was it 2019?
We don't really need to put specific dates on anything.
We don't have to talk about it. Yeah, they've got Western's number right now, so we'll see how that transitions into next season. But
yeah, we had Trevor Gorsuch, former goalie for Western, who played in that series that Colorado came in and took 2 out of 3 from the Broncos, and he was rather perturbed after the first game and annoyed that the boys couldn't get it going to right the ship there. But I mean, that was a great Western team, and Colorado College came in and showed them that you can't take anything for granted, and if you want to win, you got to play 60 minutes every night, and it bit the boys in the butt, and unfortunately the better team was Colorado College that weekend. So, props to them, and as much as I say I dislike the team, I've come to respect every team in this conference a little more as the years have gone on, and I've gotten away from being that college student who's supporting my own team, but been a more wider hockey fan. But still, the Broncos are the team I'm going to represent. But yeah, disliking your team for the last little bit here.
And I think I mean that brings me to something else. I know that Mayotte and his staff have been focusing on, as they want to be. They're really changing the identity of the team not just the culture, but just like these guys skate out on the ice, and there's big guys. Historically, you go back to the old WCHA and even into the early days of the NCHC, and CC was always kind of a smaller team. You had some skill guys in there, and definitely some great players, but the size thing is very noticeable, and I think that also the mean factor has been turned up. You see that with a guy like Gleb Beremyev, who's I would never get out on the ice with that guy. he's a big dude, and he's not a nice dude. But I think that's something that the staff was going after. They're like, okay, we're looking at a Western, we're looking at a Duluth, we're looking at some of these teams that have had size and snarl and tough to play against, and not just because they work hard, but because they're big guys. So I think that's been a focus too, is like gritty players, big guys. We want to be a physical team. We want to win those puck battles, and we want to make teams, frustrate teams. So I think that might be part of the, like maybe they want to be that team that you hate, because it seems like they've really developed this kind of like a little bit grittier reputation than maybe a lot of schools are used to seeing of CC in the past.
Yeah, the thing that stood out the most to me in the last few years is just your guys' play in the defensive zone. You're not giving up a lot of clean looks. You've really got to be able to withstand, that size of the defense coming at you, because you have to pressure Umberko. If Umberko can see the puck or even has an idea of where you're shooting from, you're not getting it past that dude. It's second, third opportunities. It's rebounds that have come or are just sitting there, and you're battling for pucks against tough defensemen. Like, they play so well in their own zone, and they get just enough offense to steal games. And Omaha's kind of the same way. Those were two teams that, like, they battled every game. If it was close, you had an opportunity to go to overtime, and somehow they were stealing overtime games just because, like, their goalie would make one more save than yours or things like that nature. And it was just enough offense. Whereas on the other side of the spectrum, you have Western Michigan, you have Denver, top two offenses in the country. And especially last year in the playoffs, Colorado College went, oh, I see your offense, and I'm going to shut it down with defense, and we're going to score just enough goals to kick you out of the playoffs. And like, that was the one thing that I wish Western would do a little bit more, is just be slightly better in their defensive zone, but still bring that offensive power that they have. And I really enjoy the hockey that Colorado College plays. I enjoy really strong defensive teams for whatever reason. Those are the teams I like watching.
It kind of reminds me of like how Colorado College is going, is how UMD won 2018 and the 2019 national championships, because great goaltending, solid defensively. They might get one more past you, and that's about it. So it's kind of that same blueprint of, you're not going to score more than we are. We might not score a lot, but you're not going to score more than we are.
And Wes, to your point, CC teams 4 or 5 years ago, they did sneak a couple wins in there. You had this is going back a little bit, like a goalie like Alex Leclerc, and then even like Matt Vernon, and some goalies that could like stand on their head, and they were winning some of those like 2-1, 3-2 games. But then there were for as many games as they like kind of pushed it over the edge. You had 3-4 times that many games where they'd be hanging in there in the second period, and then Western would score, Denver would score, and everything would just fall apart. And then it just seemed like the whole team was like, here we go again. And I think especially last year, you saw that whole kind of attitude kind of fall by the wayside. And you hear the CC players talk about it a little bit, like, yeah, we're down a goal, we're down 2 goals, we're in, we're at the Ralph, like, okay, like, we can score 1, we can score 2, so there was that kind of like don't panic mentality, and I think that served them really well. There's enough, there was enough talent to like score that 1, 2, maybe 3 goals, and then there was enough belief with on the bench in the locker room that like, oh, like, okay, like we don't need to panic. Whereas I think, teams CC teams of the past, when they were really down, it was just kind of like, throwing the towel, like we're done. So I think the like, just don't panic, just stick with it. We'll get a shot, we'll get a chance. And then, like you guys said, our goalie's gonna be there. So and I think part of that too just maybe comes from, you got Menino, Mayotte, two former goalies that kind of like build from the net out kind of thing. So but it does seem to be working well for them so far.
Yeah, and even
I think they'd
games...
like to get.
Oh, no, go ahead, please.
No, I was just gonna say I think they'd like to get a few more offensive pieces in there, and but I think from the net out is where they're looking.
Yeah, that defensive turnaround I think plays in. You kind of said teams fell apart. I think it's more that they didn't necessarily fall apart. It was they were pressing so hard to try and get those goals to get back in games, and they didn't necessarily have the defense to compensate for that press. Whereas now
Right.
they're able to push a little harder on the offensive zone because they have guys that can get back on defense, or they have the trust that Umberto is going to stop a breakaway 8 times out of 10 or 9 times out of 10. And it allows them to be a little more active in the offensive zone. Where if the older teams, they were unsure of themselves defensively, or they were unsure of their goaltender for whatever the reason may be, and if they pressed, now Western or now Denver or North Dakota, now they're piling up goals in the later periods because you want to try and get back in the game, and you're just overthinking, overpressing. Guys are getting caught out of position. We've kind of seen it happen a few times with Western, even most recently in the NCAA tournament. We were ahead, and we just had guys who were starting to get relaxed in the defensive zone and not play their position. Next thing you know, we're going to overtime against an MSU team, and a bounce off our own guy kicks us out of the tournament. I think Colorado College has gotten to a point where those necessarily aren't the plays that are beating them anymore, and they can press a little more and hope that Noah Laba finds a spot to put the puck, or a player can fall down and still score because he's getting manhandled in front of the crease, and get those dirty, those greasy goals too. So I really like where Colorado College is going, and I hope they stay competitive and it's not a 1 or 2 year kind of fluke thing. And with the new setup, I hope it plays to their advantage to get an Arizona State 4 times a year, to still have that 4-year series with Denver. Maybe to see North Dakota a little bit less here in a rotation might benefit them to some degree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think they've got something going. They've got, Matt mentioned, at the end of this season, he was like, it's, we're not trying to sell recruits on what could be anymore. He's like, now we can show them, like, hey, we were, we went to St. Paul last season. This season we were, this close to making it to the tournament. We swept North Dakota, the season series for the first time ever. Didn't do as well against Denver overall as they would have liked, but Denver was a hell of a team this year. So I think they feel like, we're a have program, is what he said. Like, we've got the building, we've got the wheels are turning here. We've got the location. We got a great school. It seems like they've got some good momentum going. So be interesting to see next couple of years where it takes them.
Got anything there, Michael?
Well, it depends on how much longer we're going. I do have one question that's just kind of random, but
I think we'll start wrapping it up here soon. We've been almost an hour. I don't want to steal all of Nick's time, but my last question will be, looking at the conference schedule that's released, there's some games that you're looking forward to outside of that Colorado College Denver series that I'm assuming you look forward to every year.
Yeah, hold on. I want to pull up the schedule. if I can find it here.
I can shoot you.
Yeah,
I'm
gonna pull it up.
I should have had it pulled up, but let's see. I assume they just got it posted right here.
Yeah, if you just go to the NCHC hockey.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Oh man, we only get you guys one time too.
I've also posted it in the chat if you need that.
Oh yeah, okay. I got it here. Let's see for CC. You know, it like you said. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. You've got those 4 dates against Arizona State. I mean, obviously, ASU in January, CC at ASU in January is going to be is going to be a fun one. I mean, if you're going to be in Tempe, Arizona, late January is a good time to be there. I don't know if I'll be able to make it out for that. I don't know if you guys know. I'm in Massachusetts, so
Oh, okay.
I'm a long ways away
You're up
from
late with us then.
Colorado. And what's that?
You're up late with us then. Well, me
Oh
anyway.
yeah.
Mike's still
You know,
living in the past.
Yeah, I'm still in Minnesota.
my one of my kid, our older child has been going to bed at like midnight for the past like 4 nights. So because we were out in California and then we came back, and so I've been up late for
Oh, that
many
sounds
nights
fun.
in a row. But let's see what else. Actually, sorry, one sec. I want to just
No, you're good.
hop over here to see if we can get the CCs, because I know I had a couple that I mean, obviously Denver every year, you know, that's an exciting one. You look forward to it. Everybody's got those dates circled. They're just up the road, so makes it easy. Let's see. All right, we got the schedule right here. Okay. Next time I'll be more prepared, you guys.
We're never prepared anyway. I just happen to have it up.
It's all
Especially
part of the fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, ASU at home. I mean, I don't know, maybe Western in, in Kalamazoo. I mean, that's early on, you know, in November, going out to Lawson. Still some raw wounds there on, on the Western Michigan side. So, and they're going to be hungry to beat CC in their own building. So that'll be a good one. And let's see, to Omaha. I'm trying to see if there was something that we didn't. I mean, honestly, you guys may feel the same way. I'm really intrigued to see what happens with Miami this year. I mean, I know they're like, they've been really down at the bottom, but some interesting players starting to make their way onto Coach Noreen's roster, and I don't know. Be really intrigued to see what they do in year one under a new staff. So that's mid-February. Miami coming out to Colorado Springs. And then again, having Arizona State in the fold. Actually, was it Duluth? Did Duluth go to Duluth? Didn't come out this season to Robeson, did they?
No. We're going out there this year.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one. I don't know.
Well, we'll see. We've been.
I mean, Duluth is a whole nother conversation, I guess, but
Yeah, basically, we have scores coming in, supposedly. Well, but they're going to be freshmen.
what's that
And
development process
losing
like?
Ben Steves, that one hurt. He deserved to go. I'm happy for him. I'm not mad at him at all. He was our offense last year, so I mean, might as well go. But it still should be kind of fun. I think the one time I saw Colorado College play live, though, in Duluth, was JT Brown was still on the Bulldogs, and I don't know who the player was or anything from Colorado College. He went to go catch the puck up in the air right at the blue line and took a shoulder straight to the sternum and got flattened. It was like a linebacker hitting a wide receiver across the middle. And in the commercial break, they showed the replay on the Jumbotron, and I looked at the Colorado College bench, and they were all just looking at him like, dude, you got crushed. And we won in overtime, but it was just like, he was just catching all sorts of hell from his teammates for that play, because it was like,
Oh man,
I got it. Nope.
not to mention catching his breath after that one. Jesus.
Oh yeah, I was like, how did the wind not get knocked out of you at that point?
Oh man.
So the one question that I had was, I've only been to 2 conference arenas. How many conference arenas have you been to, and which has been your favorite?
Ooh, so that's an easy answer. I've only been to, well, I've been to two CC arenas, and I've been to Magnus, and that's it. And a little bit of a product of, I mean, I grew up in Maine, so I was, here on the East Coast, and then, going out to CC. Wasn't really traveling when I was a student. I wasn't like gonna, fly out to Minnesota or anything like that.
Hmm.
At least probably I, was going to World Arena, and then I was in California for 7 years. So I was still kind of, far away from everything. And then I moved back east. So I've kind of been away from the general geographic, the NCHC
Hmm.
coverage area. So, and I still haven't made a trip out yet. Um, I mean, I would love to start checking them off. Had a, I had a moment where I was like, should I fly out to North Dakota? And definitely would have been a fun series to be there for this past season. They won two in overtime. So, but I would love to get to Lawson. Especially having been to some of these smaller barns back east, when they're packed. The student set, like Alphond is crazy. And honestly, even like going to Princeton was really cool. I mean, that arena is just a whole nother, Hobie Baker. And I always enjoy like watching the Duluth games. So getting to Amsoil would be cool. I mean, no offense to Miami, they're not high on my list. I guess that's just because the team hasn't been up recently. But I've heard nothing but amazing things about that arena. So and it's geographically it's the closest for me. So I don't know. I don't know if I have a number one. I think I just got to start taking them off. St. Cloud, not particularly high on the list, I guess.
No, it's.
But
That one was
I mean,
that was highly underwhelming, that arena.
I
I think I warned
yeah.
you about that too, Wes. I was like, it's
Yeah, but
not.
it was different things that I guess I was thinking about more. I wasn't ready for how small the student section could have been. I think it was also a spring break, so that didn't really help. But just the area allotted to the student section kind of caught me off guard. They have like a media desk in the very bottom of what would be the student section that takes up space from the students. Uh, the seating is so old and uncomfortable that my legs fell asleep. Um, the outside of like where the ice is was really nice, and they do a lot with the history of the team. That was cool to see. Um, but the actual like game presentation was kind of a little meh. You only have seats on two sides. There's nothing behind either of the goalies as far as like seating. I think there's maybe one row
th-
behind.
it's two rows, I believe, two or three behind one of the ends because
Yeah,
I've sat there
the
before.
end, the end that the net seems to magically unlodge itself from every other play. Um, oh wait, no, there's no one behind that one because that's the away team's net that the announcers
Hmm.
constantly bring up. It's the home team net where the goal stays still. There's a couple rows behind there. Um, but yeah, just not what I was really expecting when you think of the way that I guess St. Cloud is talked about and the presentation they get. Um, Miami, very nice building. They didn't use their space adequately, in my opinion. I think they took away from some stuff for visual design that doesn't necessarily help create an atmosphere there. Um, and I went there when Miami was still decent. So not in the last few years when they've been kind of meh, but early NCHC days when they were still riding the success they had in the CCHA closing days. Um, but yeah, I didn't like of the three that I've seen. I would say that like as a hockey arena, Broadmoor was the most hockey arena of the three. Uh, but even during a playoff game, Miami had a slight edge in atmosphere because one, it was against Western, two, it was a playoff game. Um, but nothing's going to top what Western brings week in and week out. the student section there is stupid, and it's worth a trip before that building's no longer in use for sure.
I've been following a little bit, stuff about the new arena and everything, and I'm kind of like, I get the appeal of this shiny new building, but it's off campus. It's not owned by the school. And I know it's like a guy, is it an alum who's putting it all together, or
I believe last I heard, I believe there's some tied to the school, but it's big money families in the Kalamazoo area that have contributed to other things around town.
right?
And there's
I mean,
potential for 4 teams to play there, 3 being Western, 1 being the ECHL hockey team that's in Kalamazoo as well. So the scheduling for that, it seems like it's going to be ridiculous.
to talk Western hockey with the arena briefly, I would say, having I've been to a lot of games of World Arena. Obviously, you've been out there. It was kind of cavernous. I mean, whatever they're going to build, it's going to be a beautiful arena. There's no doubt about that. They're going to do it right. CC, part of the reason they were kind of nudging for games on campus was because they had such a crappy deal at World Arena, and part of that grew out of the fact that it transitioned management over the years. But they were getting screwed on ticket sales, and there are all these stories about the coaches would bring recruits out to like check out the arena, and World Arena would bill them for turning the lights on. So like just crazy stuff like that. That doesn't mean it's going to happen with Western. It's just there's something nice about like, this is your barn, it's your utility bills. Like you control everything. I mean, obviously there are some programs that do, like, Duluth is off campus and everything. There's some programs that do it pretty well, but it gives me kind of a feeling of like, if you're gonna, it's like, I know that there's a lot of factors involved, and obviously funding is huge. But imagine if you could put, millions into Lawson, what you could do to preserve the history of that building and everything. And that's, in my ideal world, that's what you do. But
I guess that's
I know it's not that simple.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of my worst case scenario hope, is that necessarily downtown doesn't work out and they relook at kind of using the time that they're contracted to be there or scheduled to be there as a revamping of Lawson, even if it means they're tearing the whole building down and rebuilding it from scratch to be just an ice arena. Because it's also the old pool is there on the other side of the building, so it's kind of like a 2-way building. The ice arena's here, the pool's here. The pool hasn't been used for 10 years at all. We no longer have a swimming and diving team or anything like that. Haven't for a long time. But yeah, that's kind of like my worst case scenario hope, is that if this doesn't work out downtown, we take an effort and rebuild the building that's out there, because they've done so much. The campus now is not the campus that I was a student at. There's so many new buildings and so many construction projects that they've done in the last, 15, almost 20 years now, that it's a completely different space. And anyone who had visited Kalamazoo before 2010 has no idea what the campus looks like today.
For sure. Yeah. And I just worry a little bit about the Lunatics, because like, as much as I love to hate the Lunatics, easy, no question competitor for best student section in the country every year. And you can free transportation, whatever, all that jazz. Like, I'm just telling you, it's not easy to get kids off campus.
No. And I mean, Lawson's the best spot. It's on campus. There's actually like a neighborhood that a lot of the students live at directly next to the arena, because the arena is it's not in the middle of our campus. It's off to the eastmost end. I think the westmost end. And there's like apartments and student living all around it. So even if you're not living in the res halls, you're 5-minute walk from the arena, and you're walking in, or you're walking back to someone's house or apartment after the game absolutely hammered. And it's not like you're crossing any busy roads, because there's little trails and bridges that move you back through without having to cross streets and stuff. And effectively out of the way in the best way possible. Is
Right.
how I want to put that. But yeah, I'm excited to see what it's going to be like downtown, but I'm also apprehensive to see what it's going to be like in. Again, the student section is everything to the Western program. It's what got me into college hockey. It's what I look for when I'm looking at visiting other schools. It's something that I try to focus on and see, like, all right, where is your student section? How involved in the game are you? Are you just making noise to make noise because you like loud noises, or are you cognizant of the flow of the game and you're cheering your goalie making a game breaking save down 2 guys because it's a 5-on-3 and you're only up 1 goal late in the third period? Like, are you losing your mind because he saved the game for you guys and gave you an opportunity to close this out? Or are you just the drunk dude who got dragged to the game by 3 of his friends who have been coming for years? You know what I mean? Um,
Well, he's probably from northern Minnesota then.
but yeah, but those are
Not
different
that I know
experiences.
from experience or anything.
But they make the world of college hockey what it is, and it's so much fun.
And you have to preserve the Forza bitch chant.
You know, I don't have any strong opinions on that chant. I think sometimes they get a little tied into that being the chant of the day, and I would like them to use it a little more sparingly, a little more deservedly, other than the fact that a player is wearing the number 4 and it's his turn to be on the ice. That's my opinion of it. All right.
I enjoy it because it's not my fan base. So have at her.
I have no problem with it in general. I'm just saying the usage of it is a little misplaced sometimes.
What did we
from where it started?
the other thing, Bruce Siskey about it when UMD was playing Western, because we had him on right before they played, and we're like,
he was riling up the lunatics.
We're like, we don't have a 3 or a number 5. Like, who is it gonna be? And like, we don't have a number 4. He's like,
2 or 6.
Yep, 2 or 6. He's like, well, I hope it's not 6. And I think it was 2.
Yeah,
I think it was Goats was the.
But the other thing is, I've heard that they do involve the student section quite a bit in the talks of the new arena. And the interesting thing about the Lost and Lunatics is they're actually, for the last, I think, 2 or 3 years, they're a student organization on campus. They're a registered student organization. So they're not just all the students coming to, I mean, for the majority, there are students who are just coming to the games and sitting in those seats, because students get free admission to games when they show their ID or they collect the tickets now online somehow. But there's a core group of the ones who are starting the chants, who are putting together like certain things, like running the Twitter page, that they're actually a registered student organization. So they have a little bit more responsibility through the university. They have some guidelines they have to follow in as far as what they're allowed to say or what they should be promoting as far as chants go. So there's a little bit of restrictions there, but it's gotten them the opportunity to be like, hey, this is, if we have a say in how we're laying out this new arena, this is what we want. Like, we want to still be able to have a good portion of seats, because, you know, they at times they'll be 50% of the crowd at Lawson. On a sellout night, there might be 2,000. I think they broke the record for student tickets this year at one point. Might have been the Denver game with like 2,000 students. And in a 3,667 seat arena, you know, 2,000 of them being students is nuts. So I think they're doing it right. But again, if it fails, I hope it fails in the right way, and Lawson gets a facelift and turned into something that can be proud of. Because not that it's along the same lines, but we had JJ Crew on. He's now an assistant coach for Western, has been for a few years, and we asked him, you know, having played at the school, is there a stronger sense of ownership with the record of the university, and when you win games or how the team plays or the success of the team, do you feel that you own a bigger part of that? And he said, to a degree, yes. And I think when you have that campus atmosphere and the university or the arenas on campus, it strengthens that ownership of the team, of the success, of the failure, when it's all together like that. And you can kind of distance yourself from it if it's not on campus. and I think maybe some of that new ownership is why Colorado has had this resurgence of success here lately too.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, that's undoubtedly like when CC was hot. When they were number one, number two in the country, whatever. It was like okay, like it was the place to be. Kids were driving down to the arena. You could bust them down, whatever, and like. But when the team was struggling, they're not around. There's no presence on campus, so it was sort of like out of sight, out of mind. It was like
I
whatever,
could spend $15 hammered at the bar, or I can spend $15 on a ticket and another $15 on one beer at the arena.
And then wait for the bus to take you back to campus when it's 12 degrees out or whatever.
The answer is yes. Sorry, a couple of years ago, I had a moment up in St. Cloud. It was fun. They have buses that go from bars down there, and yeah, if you ever go to St. Cloud, I probably can tell you where Colorado College is going to stay because I woke up and was late for checkout. They called me a bunch of times, and then I walked by and it was UMD men's hockey team. I'm like, oh, so that's why the kids' parents were at the bar. Got it.
But yeah, I think we'll call it good there. I think we're just over an hour. It's late on the East Coast. Mike's still got another hour of enjoyable time. I think maybe.
No, I'm probably gonna go to bed very soon.
Well, you're also an old man, so at least you have the mentality of an old man.
Not as old as me though. So.
We greatly appreciate you coming on. Like I said, we don't get a chance to talk to a lot of fans from other places. We're starting to expand that out. We've got Brent, OMAV hockey fan on Twitter. I'm sure you've seen some of his tweets. He's been on the pod quite a few times. We've built a bit of a friendship there. You've responded back, and this has been a great conversation. And look forward to having you on again and contributing on Twitter or conversations elsewhere. So thank you for taking the time and filling us in on some of the CC Tiger stuff that we don't necessarily hear about because we're trapped in our own fandom of our own teams.
No, for sure. It's fun chatting with you guys. I mean, like I'm always happy to talk, college hockey, and I'm in a unique position because I'm all the way across the country from the team, and then I live out in the woods out here. I'm in Carlisle, Mass, which is out by it's like old the old North Bridge is out here, like first shot of the Revolutionary War. It's very quiet and dark out here, so like. In some ways, sometimes I'm on Twitter or like watching the game and I'm like, I really feel like I'm on an island here. It's like the middle of January. It's dark at 4:45. And I'm like, the only, not only CC fan for however many miles, but the only college hockey fan however many miles. So yeah, no, it's awesome. Thank you guys for having me and for staying up late. And it was really fun. I'd be happy to do it anytime, hang out with you guys. So
yeah, I think my hope thanks, man. At some point, if this builds out, is to kind of get like a couple groups together that can do like watch alongs and stuff. So if Colorado College is playing Minnesota Duluth and you and Mike want to like jump on YouTube and watch the game together and chat while the game is going on, or Western versus Colorado College or Western versus Omaha, or kind of build this into like its own community where we're kind of watching games together and trash talking from a distance. If we sneak one past Emberko on the third attempt, because the guys are just jamming away or whatever. Like that would be fun to me to see it grow that way.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, because then it's not just like my wife in the room every once in a while being like, how late are you going to stay up? What time does the puck drop? It's 9 p.m.
Yeah,
Eastern time. I'm like, yeah, I'll be in bed at like 1. Don't worry about it. It's cool.
Yeah, we're up watching all the games anyway, so.
For sure.
Anything you need to say? Anything else, Michael? Just
nope.
Just the normal YouTube stuff, I guess. There's a like button, a subscribe button, a share button if you thought it was worth sharing with somebody else. Twitter handles and email have not been scrolling across the bottom of the page because I have not set up the little scrolly thing for this view because I barely know what I'm doing over here. So if you've watched enough times, you know what the Twitter handle is. There's some letters missing. I'm not going to read it out because of that. The email is at goalhornsandfightsongs@gmail.com. All the letters are there. It's all the words, but they're squished together into one big long one at gmail.com. Our personal Twitter handles have been below our pictures, including Nick, who is once again at CC Hockey News. His Twitter handle is also Broadmoor Beauties. I'm Wes. That's Mike. Nick is our guest. Until next time, pucks on net, good things happen like goal horns and fight songs. Have a great one. Bye-bye.